So you want to play as the ultimate hero for God of Thunder. Well, that's what this video is all about. If you haven't seen part one, I'm showing it on screen right now and including a link in the video description. Definitely check that out. That's going to talk you through getting Hammerhaft or Lightning Hammer. It's going to talk you through level 1 through 3 and get you to where you're seeing in the video right now. But from this point on, we're going to be covering all the Adventurers 4 is going to be having. This is going to be a total guide showing you all the items you need and how to become outrageously overpowered and embody a true hero. So let's get right into it with the first major thing that you will be getting in this video, which is one of the rewards for this Riven Road subquest. So this is directly after you got the Hammerhaft, and what I would recommend here is picking up the Jolt Shooter. The Jolt Shooter allows you to get lightning charges, and it's a great distance option. All of the other ones are melee options, and we don't need it because we already have our beautiful, great hammer, the Hammerhaft. So we're going to pick up the Jolt Shooter, basically equip it, and that is going to give us a distance option in case we cannot get in range with 4 in a turn. We're going to basically be able to use a bow and have a range option. So the Jolt Shooter is fantastic for this and is a real asset to us in our playthrough. So go ahead and equip that and let's move on. So next we're coming to one of the most important items of the whole playthrough. This is why we picked Dark Urge, as well as the story significance and playing as a hero and fighting our dark nature. Or you could give in to your dark nature, whatever you want. But ultimately what we're getting here is a item called the Deathstalker Mantle. This gives expertise and stealth checks, which isn't very useful to us, but what is useful is when you kill an enemy, you then gain invisibility for 2 turns. This is extremely strong. It gives you advantage when you next attack, because you can basically sneak up to a person and attack them while you're invisible. So in the early game, this is an incredibly powerful item. Once an event happens where somebody dies in your camp, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't want to give too many spoilers away. You sleep one more time, you go back to camp, and you will get this amazingly strong cloak. You will get the Deathstalker Mantle as you see her. It is an incredibly good item, and I would highly recommend equipping it immediately. So one thing I wanted to touch on right here early on in the guide is how strong we are in dialogue, guys. How strong we are in dialogue. What I would suggest doing is always trying to intimidate your opponent. You can get out a lot of fights this way. You can actually progress through the game a lot quicker, and I just want to show you how strong that is. You're also going to be getting a ton of inspiration by following your paladin basically core tenets, so you're going to be able to do a ton of rerolls. So I would highly recommend using this strategy to avoid a lot of fights and make the game easier for yourself, but ultimately it is up to you. But I wanted to throw that tip out there. So now, guys, we're going to be switching up our party composition a little bit. I'm going to be showing you where to find Karlach. When you find Karlach and actually talk with her, you will then be able to also talk to Will. And ultimately, that's where our party composition is going to be. We're going to be dropping Astarion, we're going to be dropping Gale, and we're going to be moving on to Karlach and Will. So our final composition for pretty much most of the rest of the game is going to be for Shadowheart, Karlach, and Will. I feel this party is much better balanced than what I have currently. Gale and Astarion are great for getting you through the early game, but ultimately at this point it's time to kind of move on and get the party composition that you're going to want for the rest of the game. So that's what I'm going to be showing you. I'm also going to be linking a video in the description where if you want me to show you exactly how to find every companion, this will help you out. I have a video specifically for this, or at least a video that includes this. So if you are any newer player, you can't find Gale, Astarion, Karlach, Will, whoever, this video will actually show you where to find all of them in a very detailed way with the map and everything fully explained. So definitely go check that out as well, and let's move on. So now I'm going to be talking to you about how we can find and free Volo. This can be done for a multitude of reasons. The number one reason being it's just something a paladin would do. So I wanted to include this. As soon as you enter the goblin camp, you're going to see Volo. You should interact with him. Basically, the goblins are going to be very angry, and he's going to be taken to a cage, at which point you can actually attempt to free him. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about Volo is that if you're really into role-playing as 4, and you want to play as a one-eyed 4, which may be interesting if you've ever seen the Marvel movies, you can actually get Volo to perform a surgery where your eye will be popped out, like your physical eye will be popped out, but he'll give you a fake eye, and this fake eye allows you to have a permanent ability to see invisible creatures. So this can actually be a really good thing. The whole idea here is he's trying to remove the Iflid parasite. Personally, I'm going to be using the Iflid parasites in this run, and I'm going to be showing you how they can enhance your power significantly. And I want to show you how to become very, very powerful as 4. But if you really want to remove the Iflid parasites and you like this idea of having this permanent ability to see invisible creatures, then definitely go to where Volo is, free Volo. I freed him anyway, but free Volo and agreed to his surgery. So just wanted to give you that note and that option if you want to pursue it. Another option you have at this point in the game is actually freeing Halsin and basically using him to help kill Menthera. So if you want to kill the Drow Menthera, you want to save the Grove. You want to save Emerald Grove, which is what I'm going to be doing in this playthrough. Playing as the good guy, playing as 4, playing as a hero. Then you want to go down into the dungeons of the Goblin Camp, and you'll find this wild bear, which is actually going to be Halsin. A big thing that Halsin will give you is he'll basically be able to add to your party and have 5 party members when you're trying to actually kill all of the camp leaders. So this is a great option, guys, if you really want to roleplay as the ultimate good guy. You want to save everybody. You want to actually help all the tieflings back at the Emerald Grove. This can be a fantastic option. So this is what I would recommend. It's pretty easy to get them to release the bear and basically spell their own doom. So yeah, go down into the Goblin Dungeons, free the bear, get Halsin on your side, and take out the entire Goblin camp. As an additional note to exactly what I was talking about here, one thing I want to show you here is that when you kill Menthera, you're actually going to be getting the Iflid samples. You're going to be getting more parasites. This makes you a lot stronger, guys. So even if you're not role-playing as a good guy, even for a bad guy that's just looking for objectively having the highest power, it's probably better to actually go kill Menthera because you're going to be getting more of these Iflid parasites that you can use to increase your power. And the Iflid power tree, which I'm going to be showing here just momentarily, is extremely strong. I think it's one of the best things in the game to upgrade, and it really scales. So I would be getting all of these. All of the major bosses here have one of these Iflid parasites. So that's going to be Menthera, and it's also going to be Glut the Priestess, and I believe also the Hobgoblin leader also has one. So just kill everybody, get all the parasites. Once you've gotten all the parasites, then you're actually going to be opening up the Iflid skill tree, which I'm going to be showing here. So if you're on PC, you want to go up to the top section of your screen, right next to the minimap, and you want to click the little parasite button. So what skills should you choose once you actually have gotten these Iflid powers? The biggest one I would recommend to start out with is Favorable Beginnings. This basically allows you to add your proficiency bonus on the first attack that you make against a target. I think this is very, very good. There is some other good options here like Transfuse Health, which I think would be quite good. Sonic Overload, I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, I would recommend Favorable Beginnings. I think Favorable Beginnings is just great. So you want to click on that, and you want to kind of infuse the parasite into your brain. As you can see, your brain is getting rot. The next thing I would do is get Luck of the Four Realms. This is extremely, extremely good. You can basically make an attack roll into a critical strike. I cannot tell you how often I've used this during this playthrough and have it had huge effect. I would highly recommend that. Charm is another good option. This basically allows you to charm a foe temporarily. I will say this is a little harder to get off, so you may want to look at other options, but ultimately, the skill tree is up to you. There's a lot of great options here. I personally feel like the Iflid powers are too strong to pass away from, but if you want to follow me, then get Charm as well. And basically, that's all the Iflid powers you're going to have for now. And then we're going to be coming back into this menu later to expand on these powers. So now I wanted to talk you through a example combat situation to kind of show you how combat is supposed to play with this team composition. So we had talked about combat in the previous video. Definitely go and see that for a early game guide. But this is going to be talking about how we're going to be handling this with Shadowheart, Karlach, Will, and Thor. Basically, the idea here is the Karlach is going to be a berserker. It's going to be a barbarian berserker. And we're going to try to get Karlach up in the front lines at all times. Eventually, we're going to be trying to just upgrade our HP, get our frenzy, get her hitting multiple people. And as a feat, we're going to be taking Tavern Brawler so she can take small enemies, throw them off cliffs, and throw them into each other for huge damage. For our Paladin 4, primarily what we want to be doing is trying to hit Divine Smites, kill an enemy, go invisible, and then sneak around to the backside of another enemy and hit with advantage. For Will, we're going to be staying far away from the enemy in most cases and hitting with Eldritch Blast. We've already taken the upgrade to his Eldritch Blast where when we blast enemies, we will knock them back up to 4 meters. So we can use this to actually hit enemies off of ledges, off of cliffs. This is a really great utility spell. And Will should basically function like Gale. If you have decided not to take Will and instead have taken Gale, nothing really changes here. They're basically interchangeable. I just find Will to be a little bit more engaging story-wise than Gale when you're taking Karlach, and I would highly recommend taking Karlach in this party composition. So what is Shadowheart's role? Shadowheart's role primarily here is a heal bot. We're going to be getting her to cast Bless, getting her to cast Heal, and basically keeping our party alive. That's her primary function. She should be fairly close to the front line, specifically for the reason that when she is very close to the front line, she's able to use her Sentinel feat, which we're going to be having. And the Sentinel feat is going to allow her to get opportunity attacks on enemies, lock them down. And like I said, primarily she's being used as a heal bot. So hopefully this kind of explains combat at this level. You should be right around level 4 at this point. And I wanted to just kind of talk you through what an example combat encounter would sound like and actually show you in practice how strong the Death Mantle Cloak is, how good 4 is, and basically you can take on quite large groups of enemies at this level. So I would highly recommend this party composition, and hopefully this is explained combat to a adequate level. So next I want to tell you the easiest way you can access the Underdark. So right here we're going to basically be going back to Riven Road, which is where, the Risen Road is where we actually started the episode, very near where you get the Grand Duke, right here on the map. So where you get the Grand Duke quest and where you rescue people from the burning building, you want to go back here towards this frightened ox. So there'll be a dead animal, and then there'll actually be a frightened ox in a barn. And next to this, right here, there'll be a door covered by some boxes. And inside the door, there's going to be a guy ready to actually ambush you. And this is one of the easiest ways that you can access the Underdark. Now, honestly, where I am in the game, when you're at level 4 here, you basically have 2 choices. You can either directly go to the Underdark, or you can go through the Mountain Pass. I would highly recommend you do the Underdark section. The only other piece of content you can definitely do, and I'm going to be showing, is fighting the Hag and the Hag mini-boss. I definitely think there is some very unique loot and good reasons for going there, but I wanted to show you basically the easiest way to the Underdark. Once you proceed past this one individual, you can do an intimidation check. You basically are going to go down into a underground hideout, and in this underground hideout, you're going to be looking for an invisible wall. Now, if you don't have a really good perception level, just follow exactly where I'm going in the video, and basically you'll go to an elevator. You'll basically fiddle with some controls on the elevator, and you'll be able to proceed to the Underdark as I'm showing. So yeah, this is not too difficult, guys. Compared to the other ways to get down to the Underdark, I personally think this is the easiest, and I think this is probably the best way in terms of actually getting directly to the Underdark content. I would highly recommend you do the Underdark content before you proceed to the Mountain Pass. So what you want to do is you want to wait until it says, hey, you're going to proceed. This is going to go into act number 2. And then you want to go back and do the Mountain Pass content. Ultimately, in this guide, my hope is to give you the most content and the most thorough guide on YouTube. And therefore, I'm going to be trying to show you things piece by piece, even if they take a little bit longer. I hope you appreciate that. So one thing I really want to say about the Underdark, and a big adjustment compared to the earlier parts of the game, is that you really need to be a lot more careful in combat. You really need to start buffing your party members. You're starting to get into some enemies now that are a little bit higher level that can hit multiple times a turn. You will face some level 5 enemies here, so they will have more than one attack per turn. And you also have a situation in the Underdark where you're facing enemies like these Minotaurs very, very early. As soon as you come down, you'll be facing these guys, basically, that are able to do some AoE attacks, knock down several people, hit several people. Yeah, so as you're seeing on screen, they can do a lot of damage. So I would just be a bit more careful. Go back to my combat guide, look at that section. You really want to be buffing with Shadowheart. You really want to be using her Sentinel feat to kind of lock enemies down. You do want to take a bit more care because the earlier part of the game, generally, if you're not playing on Tactician, if you're playing on Tactician, it's even going to be harder. But even if you're playing on Balanced, generally the first part of Act 1, you can kind of do whatever you want. Most combat scenarios you can kind of get through, even if you're not playing optimally. But at this section of the game, it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It just means you have to sync things through a little bit more, take a little bit more care, and focus on your positioning. Will should always be kind of out of the combat and kind of hitting with his Eldritch Blast from range, while basically the Berserkers, you know, we should have Thor and we should have Karlach in the front line and them doing the majority of the damage dealing. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, guys. I just wanted to kind of reinforce that kind of MMO, you know, tank, healer, DPS structure, and basically Will is more or less your DPS. Karlach and Thor are your tank / damage dealers in this case, and Shadowheart is your healer. So be careful about that. Just wanted to note that because the difficulty is a bit of a step up compared to earlier parts of the game. Another note about the Underdark is the environmental hazards you're going to face, guys. The Underdark is full of very, very dangerous environmental hazards. You have hook horrors everywhere. You have exploding mushrooms. You have poison. You have these bullets that are basically going to burrow under you and deal tons of damage. I want you to be very aware of this. Save often, guys. The best thing I can say about the Underdark, the best advice I can give, press that F5 key, save often, or if you're on a PS5 controller, just take the 5 seconds save, because it can be very frustrating, have to reset due to a party wipe, and there's a lot of things in the Underdark here that can definitely wipe your party quickly. So I wanted to make that quick note, save often in this particular part of the game. Without delving too much into the realm of spoilers, I would highly recommend doing the quest, Protect the Myconid Circle. Basically, these Myconids, these creatures have been being killed by a group of slavers, guys. So if you're playing the good path, you absolutely should do this. And the item that you get, Shadow of Mesobirazan, is a very good item. You're basically going to be able to cast invisibility and be invisible for 2 turns or until you attack an enemy. It's very, very good. Since we have the Deathstalker Mantle on 4, you shouldn't put it on 4, but other people could really use this. Karlach could really use this helmet. It could be very, very good. Or let's say Will, any of your spellcasters could also use this and be able to move around and try to get into a really good position to then attack with advantage. So I would highly recommend doing this. I'm going to be showing you basically the quest reward at the end here. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. Shadow of Mesobirazan is a great helmet and absolutely worth doing this quest for. In the west section of the Decrepit Village, where you're going to be finding all of these glowing red mushrooms, you're going to be coming on to a place called the Arcane Tower. This is a place that I actually missed in my first playthrough. I would highly suggest using turn-based mode for this part because there's these arcane turrets. These turrets will hit you with a lot of damage very, very quickly. Basically, the idea here is you're going to stagger run and you're going to go from set of cover to set of cover. There's going to be a blue line where the turret is tracking you so you can see who's actually getting tracked. You want to enter a turn-based mode here and you want to basically run from cover to cover until you get to the entrance of the tower. So now, guys, we're going to be leveling up 4 to level 5. Now, a quick note here, I'm going the 4-8 route, which is to say that I'm going to level up my Paladin to level 4, and then either take Paladin up to level 8, and then 4 into Storm Cleric, or I'm going to be doing 8 levels of Storm Cleric and 4 levels of Paladin. Some people will say go to 5, go to 6. I'm doing this to maximize my feats, so that's what you're going to be seeing in this guide. That's what I would recommend in most cases, unless you know specifically what you're doing. In terms of spell slots, all you're going to be wanting to do is get all of the smites. Thunderous Smite, you have your Divine Smite, all of the smites, just fill that up in your spell slots. Get your Searing Smite, your Wrathful Smite, just put those in the spell slots. For feats, it's going to be very simple. We're going Great Weapon Master. This is a fantastic feat for 4. It's going to sacrifice a little bit of the percentage chance to hit, but it's going to give us a huge boost in damage, and you can toggle this on and off. This is a fantastic feat, and if you use a Great Hammer like what we're using, this is what you want to do, guys. So yeah, that's basically how you level up 4. Next, we're going to be moving on to Shadowheart. Now, honestly, Shadowheart has a lot more options as what you can do with her. She's probably the most flexible person on your entire party in terms of what you could actually be getting. You could get some damage spells, you could get some utility spells. There's definitely some really cool spells that she has now that she can access level 3 spells. You can basically get like Talk to the Dead, which is kind of useful and can definitely be good. One of the biggest ones I would recommend is Beacon of Hope. I think Beacon of Hope is just a really good spell. It basically fully heals an ally, which is really, really, really good. And there's also another highly recommended spell for me called Mass Healing Ward that I believe gives 5 to 7 health to all party members in a certain radius. So yeah, Mass Healing Ward and Beacon of Hope is probably my biggest recommendations. Now, honestly, the trickery domain that Shadowheart is originally in isn't the most ideal. I personally would recommend going and respecking her into another domain. I like Tempest domain. There's a lot of life domain is good. Honestly, you can do a lot with Shadowheart. It all comes down to your personal preference and the play style that you like to play. Do you like to play her a little bit more aggressively? You can do that because she does have the Sentinel feat, and so we built that into her play style. I personally use her mainly as a healing bot, so probably sometime I'm going to just switch her domain into the life domain. At this point at level 5, I hadn't done it yet just because I felt the game difficulty didn't justify it. However, that's definitely a legitimate thing you can do. And yeah, you have a lot of options with Shadowheart. You can't really go wrong. As long as you're getting healing spells and buffing spells, you're going to be okay, and she's going to be doing her job. Shadowheart is much more important about who you're buffing, who you're healing, and positioning. So hopefully that's helped. On to Karlach. What should you do at Karlach at level 5? Well, guys, there's not much to do at Karlach at level 5. Level 5 doesn't really give you anything except stat ups and class features. You do get to hit once more per turn, which is really, really important and really, really good. One thing that I could definitely see people recommending is to eventually go into a secondary class of fighter. This is definitely something you can do. I'm probably going to wait until Karlach gets to level 8 and then actually go into fighter. But for Action Surge, 2 levels in the fighter, a lot of people really recommend this for barbarian classes, so I can definitely see this. But for Karlach, it's pretty simple. You just level her up. On to Will. Now, Will has a lot of options, guys. I want to talk you through some of these options. So, Will basically can choose a lot of different spells. I'm going to tell you what I recommend, which is Fireball. I think Fireball is very, very good. I like dealing high damage. I like keeping my characters very simple. So, Fireball is one of the best spells you can take. Now, I will say, because you get the Deepen Pack feature at this rank, if you go Pack of the Tomb instead, if you respec and go Pack of the Tomb, there is some logic to this because you'll be able to cast Haste. And Haste, guys, if you don't know, is one of the best spells in the game. So I will put that out there. If you want to respec Will and go Pack of the Tomb, that is definitely a strong option because Haste is very, very, very good. There is a lot of good spells you can get here. I would recommend replacing one of your older spells with a better spell. Obviously, on Warlock, it's a little bit less limited than, let's say, Wizard. You're not getting as many spells, but the Eldritch Blast and the Eldritch Incantations definitely make up for this. This allows you to just put out consistently high DPS. It's extremely good with being able to knock back enemies to throw them off ledges. Will, guys, is just a jack of all trades. He's also very, very good in dialogue, which is something a lot of people don't mention because he has very high charisma. So he's very, very good in dialogue. Really, in terms of incantations here, it doesn't matter too much. I would recommend personally Fiendish Vigor. I think Fiendish Vigor has the most utility because you're getting that 7 basically temporary hit points. Just making your spellcasters a little bit tankier, keeping them alive, really, really helps. But talking with beasts too, the ability to actually speak with animals is also a great utility. But Fiendish Vigor, in my opinion, is the best thing you can get in terms of the Eldritch Incantations. And yeah, I think it's a great, great option here. In terms of replacing spells, you can honestly do pretty much anything here. Just take out one of your spells that you feel isn't helping you or is weaker. I believe Arms of Hadar is probably, I think, quite weak. Arms of Agathith, I don't really like either. Like I said, I tend to don't like to put too many of these armor-based spells. I think that they're weaker than just dealing more damage. And yeah, so you can get a utility spell. Grant Flight or Gaseous Form is really, really good. I'm going to be getting Gaseous Form, but honestly, a lot of these spells are really good options. Now we're going to be exploring the Arcane Tower in the Underdark. Now this is not it's something that you must do, but I do recommend doing it. I think it's definitely worth doing. I think the Arcane Tower has a really cool storyline. Some of the books you're going to read in here are really, really good. I don't want to spoil too much, guys, but the simple thing I want to tell you is that you should definitely read all the books in the Arcane Tower. Read the notes. It's very important to get the full experience. One thing I would recommend, don't go in the main door. There's a little side window that you can jump through. That's going to basically avoid most of the arcane turrets. And what you want to do is you want to enter in the main room, and then you want to jump down on these mushrooms and basically go down the stairs and access the lower levels of the arcane tower. Once you get to the lower levels of the arcane tower, you're going to be able to find basically a generator. There's a tree outside that has a purple flower that stops all magic. You're going to put this into the generator. It's going to power up the generator, and then you're going to be able to access other parts of the tower. The ultimate goal here, guys, is to go up to the top, and you're going to be actually interacting with this automatron that was set by this lady in the tower. And this automatron is a very interesting character. He's got this kind of Shakespearean dialogue going on. If you read the books, you're going to know what to answer, and you're going to be able to talk him down. I chose to fight him just simply not because I couldn't talk him down, but just simply because I want the experience. There's also a lot of loot in this particular arcane tower. When you actually defeat the automatron, you're then going to be able to go to the bottom of the tower, and in the basement of the tower, I'm going to be showing some of the loot you can get. You get a lot of gold. There's a lot of mushrooms and other things you can use for other quests. So I would recommend doing the Arcane Tower. I think it's definitely worth doing. It's worth exploring. I don't want to spoil it too much, but read everything. Really soak this in. It's a great, great quest. So finally, guys, I'm going to be talking you through how to deal with Auntie Ethel. You want to go south of the Blighted Village, southwest specifically, to go towards the Sunlit Wetlands. The Sunlit Wetlands is where you're going to find Auntie Ethel. Now, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but this is a pretty hard fight. This is why I've saved this until you're level 5. If you come here at level 3 or level 4, you're going to have a pretty hard time fighting her. She's the first, what I would consider, real mini-boss in the game, with a health pool of over 100. I believe it's like 112 or 115. So I would suggest waiting until you're leveled up a little bit before the end of Act 1. Another thing that I want to tell you about this quest is there's a lot of different permutations. You can go and actually give Ethel your eye in exchange that you can basically make a deal with the devil with her. You can try to save this lady, Mirna, that is basically indebted and trying to bring back her husband. I don't want to give away what's happening with the quest, but there's a lot of different permutations. But I do want to mention that you can make a deal with Ethel. If you get the right speech checks, you can basically get the best of everything. However, this is very, very hard to do. In this particular playthrough, you'll see that I actually was not able to do this and basically killed her before she offered to like barter. But yeah, Auntie Ethel is a bit of a nightmare. Specifically, the Sunlit Wetlands, in my opinion, are one of my least favorite areas of the game, but I did want to show this for completionist's sake. I do think you should come down here. The amount of potions in specific, the amount of potions and scrolls that you'll get from this one area is probably higher than any other area in the early game. I think it's absolutely worth coming down here. So definitely go down and let's tackle getting through Auntie Ethel. So depending on your dialogue choices here, guys, several different things can happen, but realistically, you're going to realize that something weird and strange is going on with Auntie Ethel and this woman. She's trying to force feed her. Her husband, Mirna's husband, is missing. And basically, as soon as you actually discover what is going on, the Sunlit Wetlands is going to transform into a putrid bog. And from that point on, you're going to be fighting. Now, this first fight, you're not actually going to be fighting with Auntie Ethel, but you're going to be fighting with Redcaps. These guys are pretty easy to dispatch at level 5. This is specifically why I tackled this area right now versus earlier, because if you're fighting these guys at like level 3, they can definitely give you some problems, and it's only going to get harder from here. What I would suggest is going to camp, getting fully healed up, having all characters healed up, blessing everybody, and just smashing these Redcaps. As soon as you smash these red caps, search everywhere in the house, guys. I cannot emphasize this enough. There is an outrageous amount of skulls and potions in this house. Greater healing potions, potions of speed, a lot of things that you can either sell or use. So I would highly recommend doing this, and then proceed through the fireplace like I'm going to be showing. Proceed through the fireplace and go downstairs. As soon as you go downstairs, guys, you're going to run into Auntie Ethel again. She's going to be mad at you. She's going to start to get a little bit nervous. What you're going to have to do now is beat a lot of her minions and get through a wooden door. Now, I will say one of the reasons I dislike this area is specifically because of this final wooden door. You have to talk to the wooden door. You have to barter with it to actually get through it. But the issue is it can glitch out and you can actually not access the wooden door. And it can be an absolute pain. As soon as you get through this wooden door, you're going to be fighting a lot of Auntie Ethel's minions. These are people that she basically mind controlled with these masks. And by the way, do not put on the mask, whatever you do. Do not put on the masks that are on these people. She will be able to take control of you, and it's a disaster. Don't do it. But basically, you're going to have to fight for them. You can also use non-lethal methods if you feel like you shouldn't kill them. But yeah, proceed past these pretty easy enemies and actually go down towards the basement, towards the bottom chamber of Auntie Ethel's lair. So at this point, guys, you're right next to the boss fight, but you have one more step to go, and that's getting through traps, poison pools, and a lot of tomfoolery to actually get there. Now, I will warn you guys, the best thing you can do here is split up the party or tank damage. There's really only two options you have. The first thing you can do is you can split up the party, you can take 20 minutes, and you can basically guide each person specifically through each of these traps, throwing stones to actually like block poison, disarming traps, etc, etc. It's going to take you like 20 minutes to guide every single party member through this. It is very, very annoying, guys. I dislike this platforming section quite a bit, but I want to give you some tips. The best thing I can recommend is have some healing potions, and then literally just take the whole party and march down here in like 2 minutes. At which point, at the bottom, you will not be able to go to camp, but what you can do is you can either quick rest, I believe that's an option, or you can definitely just use potions and top everybody else off. This is your best option. Just throw a potion on the ground, heal a bunch of people, and since you had so many potions from Auntie Ethel's lair, this should be no problem. You should have no short supply of potions at this point in the game. But I will just say this, guys. This part can be very, very annoying. It's just a disaster, guys. Those poison pools, those fire traps. Wait till level 5 to tackle this particular mini boss, because just this platforming run itself, when me and my wife were playing and we came here, I was think either level 3 or level 4. This killed us like 15 times. Just make it easy on yourself. Wait till level 5. Just run through the whole gauntlet and then just top everybody else off with potions. Now let's actually deal with the boss fight. So guys, we're to the Auntie Ethel mini boss or boss fight. Now what I want to say about this boss fight is it's actually pretty easy if you understand the mechanics. And the mechanics is Auntie Ethel has a high HP pool, and she's going to put a lot of these mirror images of herself all over the place. What you want to do is you want to use ranged attacks to destroy these mirror images as quickly as possible. The mirror images are actually more dangerous than Auntie Ethel herself. Also, if you want to save Myrna, you're going to need to either break her out of the cage or put water on the cage to save her before Auntie Ethel dies. Now, there is a problem here, guys, though, about doing this at level 5, and that is, just like my playthrough, you can actually kill Auntie Ethel before she's willing to barter with you. If you barter with her, you can get an item that gives you a 1+ stat up for any attribute. So it can be very, very, very good. And I would recommend doing this, but it is kind of difficult to get. You need to get her like below, I think it's 15 to 25% HP, and then end all of your turns so she's like, don't kill me, and she tries to barter with you. I will say this, Myrna, the more you discover about her, it's very, very hard to... One of the reasons I dislike this quest is because it's quite hard to actually come to what I would consider a good end. This is similar to the Bloody Baron in Witcher 3, where there is a lot of sadness to this quest. It's a pathos-based quest, but I want to not spoil things for you. I just want you to experience it yourself. But if you're looking for the stat up, definitely try to save Auntie Ethel about 10 to 15% HP, or at least less than 20. give her a turn to try to barter with you, and she should offer a deal. What you do from that point is up to you, but ultimately you can choose an option if you get the best dice roll to get pretty much everything. Now, as you're seeing here, all you need to do for Auntie Ethel's clones is use the ranged weapon, use Eldritch Blast on your Will, use your Lightning Bow on 4, and just basically kill these clones. Now, these clones will go down in one hit, so they basically only have 1 HP. So as long as you're hitting them, you can actually knock multiple clones out in one round. If you get the clones down, Auntie Ethel herself is pretty easy at this level. You just basically chain up a bunch of damage. There's also AoE damage that you can use with Will. So, like, I believe it's called the Hell of Blades spell is really, really good. There's just a lot of things you can do. Really, the only problem with Auntie Ethel is, A, if you want to put water on the cage and actually break Myrna out, which is one problem, and B, all of the clones. And if you're a melee heavy class, or if you have a bunch of melee characters and you don't have many range characters, this can be a real problem because Auntie Ethel will be teleporting all over the place, going invisible. So it can be frustrating, guys, but I'm going to cut to the end of the fight. I think this is pretty easy at this level, and with these tips, you should be able to navigate this, one of the final parts of Act 1, one of the major final parts of Act 1. So after you've looted Auntie Ethel, you can go past into a little doorway, and in this doorway, you're going to find her actual inner sanctum. And here, like I was talking about at the start of this boss fight, you are going to find an absolutely insane amount of potions, elixirs. You're going to find a great staff. You're going to find just a ton of stuff. So pick all of this up, take everything, potions of speed, healing potions. It's absolutely endless. This is one of the best places in the early game for items, rings, everything. You're going to be able to sell an absolutely huge amount. And just if you play like I've been playing, your gold should be sitting at about like 2,000 to 3,000 gold. So you have plenty of money to spend on a lot of things, and you'll have a ton of items. So guys, congratulations, you made it this far. I'm going to be showing you some of the items I have now on screen so that you can equip the same items. Basically on 4, the Deathstalker Mantle is really, really important. Speedy Lightfoot are, I think, the best boots right now. Herbalist Gloves on Shadowheart are really, really good items. And I do like the flail that she has. I really think the flail that I picked up, the Corrosive Flail, a little bit earlier, you can get this in the Micronid Grove from a vendor, is a really, really good item. The Corrosive Flail is what I would recommend on Shadowheart. On Karlach, I definitely think the axe that we picked up a little bit earlier is a fantastic axe. You can kind of see all the items on screen here. I want to thank you guys for making it to this part of the video. I know this video is very long. My original intention was to get part 2 of the video to go from level 4 to level 8. I realized very quickly that this was going to be way too much. It would have been a 5-hour video. Just here, guys, took me about 20 hours of recording footage and about 5 to 10 hours of editing. Please, guys, please, if you like this video, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It makes an outrageous difference to a small channel like mine. I hope you like this, guys. I hope this gave you some value and helped you in your quest to become 4 God of Lightning and Thunder in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to be making a part 3. We're going to be taking this build all the way to the end game. So if you like that, please comment below and let me know what you thought about this guide. Thank you again, guys, so much. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.